All right, we appreciate everybody for joining us that are joining us on Facebook and are joining us on LinkedIn. So I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda, who will introduce the session and our presenter for this afternoon. Rhonda.
Yes, thank you everyone for being here today. I'm excited to have Amanda kick off our second round of doing the Mind, Body, Spirit class. She kicked us off last time as well because it makes so much sense that before you kind of want to do any kind of change or do something new, you need to kind of set time aside. And Amanda has kind of a gift at doing this. And I think after you meet her today, you are going to see that and hopefully help you set some ways that you can set some time aside for the inner work, see some, and have it connect with your priorities too, your goals and your values. So I'm going to read a quick introduction about Amanda. Amanda is an intuitive life coach, the founder of Autumn Healing, where she helps individuals embrace balance, discover joy, and create meaningful transformations in their lives. Amanda combines practical strategies with intuitive insights to help her clients identify their values, overcome challenges, and create more time for what truly matters. She's passionate about helping others reconnect with their authentic selves and live a life aligned with their values. Outside of coaching, Amanda is a dedicated wife and mom, a community volunteer, and a passionate advocate for empowering women. I am so enjoyed getting to know Amanda this past year with ConsciRise, and I'm delighted to let y'all all get to know her a little bit better as well. So, with no further ado, I'll kick it off to Amanda. Pass it over to Amanda.
Great. Thanks so much, Rhonda. I'm excited to be here and to be here to talk about time. It's my favorite topic. I am going to, let's see, is it going to let me share my screen? Oh, it will. Okay, perfect. And I think, Rhonda, you have to let me know, but the workbook that goes along with this, is this also going to be available, or is it in the portal for people? Because there's sort of exercises that go along with this after the fact, like afterwards, sort of
Oh
the.
yes. So we will make sure that that is in the portal after the presentation. We'll make sure. So
Perfect.
we have it from it's. I think it might have come down from last time, so we'll make sure it's in the new link.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank
Yes,
you. All
thank you.
right. Okay, so actually before we start, yeah, so this is really the foundation of the series so that you can create the time to do this inner work. And so just a little bit about me. I know Rhonda read a beautiful sort of introduction around sort of what it is that I do, but what I like to explain, what I like to share is sort of the things that I have on my list of things to do. Like what are all the things that I have on my plate, so you kind of get a sense of, how I'm able to fit it all in. So as Rhonda said, I'm a wife and mom, and I also do have a full-time regular professional day job with a 1 hour commute each way. I do some volunteering on the professional side as well as with my son's school. And not just the school itself, but also at the district level. So I'm on a number of committees. And then I have my businesses. So I am, as Rhonda mentioned, a intuitive life coach. I'm also a Reiki practitioner, doTERRA wellness advocate, skin care consultant, and I also do some voice and background acting on the side as well for fun. And I'm also a real estate investor, and I manage a portfolio of 3 investment properties. And so people always, wonder, how do you fit it all in? And as we go through the presentation today, you'll see that, everything that I do is with intention. I don't watch TV. There are a lot of things I'm very intentional about how I spend my time. And so all the things that I do spend my time are things that I do value and things that I want to be doing. And so this is what we're going to cover today in today's session. We're going to talk about, why we want to create time for inner work, gaining some clarity around how you're currently spending your time so that you can then start to make those shifts on how you're spending your time, shifting some perspectives around time. I'm going to share some strategic tools. Like Rhonda mentioned, I integrate both strategic tools as well as intuition in my practice, some success tools, and then we're going to wrap up. So the first thing we're going to start with is the why, right? Why is it so important? Because we need to understand why we want to do something. When we have a strong why behind it, it keeps us motivated. It keeps us moving forward and staying on track. And so this is a little exercise I'm going to walk you through as to why we might want to create this time for inner work and how we want to why we want to dedicate this time. So I'm going to ask you to just, think about why you want to make the time for inner work. What is it that's so important to you about making this time for yourself? And so these are some examples on the screen of whys that people might have, right? Wanting to reconnect to who you truly are beneath the roles that you might play. Being tired of living on autopilot and craving more intentionality, wanting to better manage stress or create greater inner peace, feeling like there's something missing and wanting to explore maybe what that might be, and wanting to deepen your soul connection, your intuition, wanting to break old patterns or living a more conscious life, or just wanting to show up and be present and grounded for the people in your life. And so I'm going to take a moment to really allow you this time to sort of think about, what is your why? Why are you here? What is it that you are wanting to, why are you wanting to create this time for inner work? So I'm going to pause for just a second so that you could jot something down. And I'm going to ask for some shares if people are willing to share sort of why they're here. All right, I'm going to check in to see if anybody's had some time to jot down their why they're here today. Is anybody wanting to share today why they're here? Why is this so important to you? Why create this time for inner work?
Hello, can anybody hear me?
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
How you doing? My name's Mark. I'm just now joining. I'm a few minutes late.
Oh, hi, Mark. Nice to have you join us. No worries about being a little bit late. I wasn't sure if did you hear the exercise with the question that I had posed?
Yes, ma'am. I actually didn't bring nothing to write with, but I did, saying, just blow it up. But one of the things that really stuck out to me is that I want to, deepen my spiritual connection. I want to get back to that, as well as living on autopilot. I mean, it's a couple of them, but that spiritual connection, I definitely want to get back to that.
Great. Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Does anybody else would like to share their why today for being here?
I just think it's important to declutter the mind. So like just taking time for yourself and meditating. It just like if you're having a stressful moment or whatever, yeah, just take a little time to de-stress and all that. So and it again, it helps you to, feel more at peace and like he was saying beforehand, you just, can connect with that inner connection and it just, yeah, brings peace and calmness, which is very much appreciated.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. Thanks, Cindy, for sharing. All right. Anybody else like to share their why before we move on?
Yeah, I could share real quick.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. One is curiosity. I'm always curious about, where I can pick up new tools along the way to add to my tool belt. And the second part is that making time for inner work moves me away from spending more time on technology like phones and whatnot. And so anytime that I can do anything related to what you're talking about here is just, only going to add to managing the stress and creating that inner peace that you speak of. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Todd, for sharing. Yeah, absolutely. Anytime we can step away from technology, off of screens, right, and reconnecting, and I love your background, just being in nature, right, and just being outside and beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what Todd was saying, with my neurodivergent ADHD, anything I can do to add to my time management skills was another another plus for me. I just came in from outside to get the heck out of it. It's 20 degrees here and windy.
All right. Oh yeah. Thanks, Fred, for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for the invite too.
All right. Thanks for everybody who shared. I'm going to move on to the next slide here. Oh, that was the why exercise. Okay. So the first step, really now that we understand why we want to do this is really gaining clarity. So this is where we sort of get into the, how do we create this time? And so the three step process I usually use is really the first thing is in gaining clarity is tracking your time. And in the little workbook that will come afterwards, there's some pages set aside for you to sort of take a look at how you're spending your time today. Because when you gain that awareness of how you're spending your time, then you can become intentional about, what is it that I want to keep on my to-do list or how I'm spending your time and what do I want to reduce or eliminate. And so gaining awareness is that first step. And then aligning your time with your values and priorities. So really taking a look at like what's important to me? What am I spending my time on? Are there things in my day that I'm spending my time on that really aren't important to me? Are they maybe things I think like I should be doing? Or are these things that other people are expecting of me? But how important are they to my own values and priorities? So what we're going to go through next is sort of identifying what our values and priorities are, because until we know what those are, we sort of are just spending our time on things that we may or may not think are important, but do we really know? And so, in addition to sort of getting an understanding of how you're spending your time, it really is important to understand what our values and priorities are. And so the 6 questions, I am going to walk you through this little exercise under bullet point 2 here. These are 6 questions that I pulled. They're based off of the DeMartini values determination methodology, which actually I think has 13 questions, but I've sort of condensed it into the 6 that I like to use the most, that I think are the most impactful for identifying values. So I'm going to walk through this. I'm going to ask the questions and I'm going to have you think about what those responses are so that we can kind of get a sense of, what is it that's really important to me so that I know how I can realign how I'm spending my time. So I'm going to go through each of these 6 questions. And when I ask the question, I don't want you to think about it or overthink it too much. It's really sort of what are the top 3 things that come up for you? And it really is the top 3 things in each category. So like for example, the first one, what do you spend most of your time on? It's the top 3 things that you spend the majority of your time on. Usually most people sort of have a sense of what that is when I ask the question. So I'm going to go through each one and I want you to jot down the answer, the top 3 answers for each of these questions. So we can kind of get a sense of, oftentimes you're going to see some repeated responses as we go through, and those are going to be what we'll identify as your top values and priorities. So the first question is, what do you spend most of your time on? What are those 3 things that you spend the majority of your time on? So take a moment to just jot down those 3 things.
Yeah.
All right. So the second question, hopefully you had some time to jot some things down there. The second question is, what do you spend the majority of your money on? And I don't want you to necessarily use like the big things like rent or mortgage or whatever it is, because those are sort of part of the necessities. But outside of sort of necessities, like what are the 3 things that you spend the majority of your money on in sort of buckets? Moving on to the next question is, where are you most organized in your life? So think about the areas of your life where you feel like you've got things pretty figured out. There's not too much chaos. You feel really organized in that area of life. What are those top three areas of life where you feel the most organized? Okay, so the next question is, where are you the most disciplined in your life? Where do you feel like you have a lot of discipline with yourself in staying on track with that area of life? So the top three areas where you feel like you have the most discipline. Okay, the next question, what do you like to learn about most in life? So when you think about if you were to just sit down and pick up a book or decide you wanted to do some internet research on something, what are those areas or topics that you feel like you really enjoy learning about in life? What are those three topics? Okay, and then the last question I have on here, what fuels you up or gives you energy? So when you think about the things that really energize you, you're super excited to do, or area of life that really, really gets you going, what are those three areas of life that really, or three things that really fuel you up and give you energy? All right. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to jot down at least a few in each of those categories. And what I'll say is about, if you want to dive deeper into this, you can just Google DeMartini values determination. It's a free assessment you can do on their website, and it takes about an hour to go through to get through all of the questions. But at the end, it gives you this nice little pie chart showing you what your top values are. And then the other thing I'll say about this is it really is a point in time, right? You're assessing this as of today, and things absolutely will shift over time. Your priorities will shift, changes in in your life, things that happen. And so this is real. And, if you do some work and you make some shifts intentionally, then that will also create change here. So it really is just a point in time assessment. And so this is how you're feeling today. And, you're welcome to retake this or re-answer that question maybe 6 months from now and see how things might have shifted. And so I'm curious, as people went through that exercise, did you identify any trends? Did you see any commonalities between in the responses that sort of popped out at you as like, okay, this appears to be something that I value or prioritize today? Anyone like to share what they identified as they went through that exercise?
Yeah, I guess I could go first.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
I guess it says, what do I spend my most time on? This is funny because me and Dr. Jonathan was just on the phone, so speaking about this. What made me join this group is because I'm really trying to find that time to get back to myself.
Mm.
But what I spend most of my time on, I guess I would say, is definitely work. I work anywhere between 12 and 16-hour days. So that'd be definitely number one. But then number two, I had a lot going on around the house as far as like this DIY stuff. So I was spending a lot of time on that as well, which made me think, because these some good questions. I haven't even really been reading how I usually read.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, work is going to be sort of one of those top things that they spend time on. It doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad thing, right? There's no judgment
No,
here on what those responses are. It's right. It's really just this to gain some awareness around, what's going on in your life. Because I think a lot of people don't really sit down and really think about these sorts of things. So just gaining some awareness around it, just so you have that sort of understanding of, this is where my priorities might be right now. Maybe work is really important to you. But and maybe in another phase of
could
life, there'll be
be.
shifts.
They always talk about work-life balance, man. But
Yeah. Well, we're going to try to create a little bit of balance here today after we end today. Hopefully you'll get an idea of how maybe you can create some more of that balance.
that's
Um, Anybody else like to share anything that they identified as they went through that? Any trends they noticed? Anything that popped out at them? Oh, Cindy, I see your mouth moving, but you're muted.
That's right. They did that. Sorry. Um, for me, like if there's something that, you have to do, it's not something like you're like, yay, I get to do the dishes or clean the kitchen or, sometimes I enjoy working out, but sometimes I'm like, oh man, do I have to do that? And I clean, part-time for a business on the side. So, I've learned to adapt I love listening to podcasts, and audiobooks, things like that, of spiritual nature, consciousness, kind of learning and, understanding how things work. So like I spend a lot of time, I realize that doing those things, those mundane things that I don't want to do are fun because I can I feel like I can utilize the time to learn and grow. So that's something, that I think is key. But, just kind of the basic stuff you want to make time to be outside. And it's a little harder in Wisconsin in the winter if you're not the biggest fan of cold, but you do what you can. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I like how you said around sort of you're multitasking a little bit there, right? Like doing those everyday
Mhm.
tasks, but really leveraging that you don't have to just do that, especially like with cleaning, listening to things to help you grow and learn. So I love that. Making the best use of that time.
Mhm.
Awesome. All right. Anybody else want to share before we move on?
I can go real quick.
Yeah.
One of the things I'll say I spend um in addition to what some of the others I said, but time like work and family is like educational experiences.
Mm.
Or experiences where I can like try to build community. And those are kind of like larger buckets, but it allows for a lot of different things to go in there, whether it's like playing out and trying pickleball for the first time to be able to connect and meet some new folks or reading a new book about a completely different topic But those type of experiences that I do spend time and money on because it's important in it. I know Todd mentioned earlier about like curiosity, and it provides kind of like I guess a way for me to fulfill my curiosity by being able to have these different community and educational experiences.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I like what you said there. It was because it's not just specific things; it's like experiences and experiences that lead to community building or interacting and building relationships. So I really love that. I mean, that knowing you, that aligns very well with what I know about you. So awesome! Thanks for sharing. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next slide here. Oops, slide. Move along. Okay, so now that we have a little bit more awareness around how how we're spending our time, what our values and priorities are, now I want to step into sort of talking a little bit about sort of shifting some perspectives around time. Because I think a lot of people, feel like, there's never enough time to do all the things I want. And I want to sort of challenge that belief because I actually don't have that belief, and so I like to challenge that belief in people that feel like there's never enough time. Because as you saw on my first slide, I fit in everything I want to fit in, and I don't feel like I'm ever never have enough time. And so, what is it that causes sort of scarcity of time, and what can we do to shift into more of an abundant feeling around time? And it really is a choice, and it is also perspective. Because, when you think about some sayings that exist in the English language, right? Like time flies when you're having fun. Um, does time really go faster when we're having fun? No, it doesn't. It's really our perception. It's how we perceive it, right? And so, I'm sure there are times in your life where you felt like time did move faster, right? Or there are probably times in your life when you felt like time was moving slower. So, like time flies when you're having fun. Maybe you have that perception sometimes. You're having fun and time's going by fast. And the flip side of that, times when you might have felt like time was going slower. Like I love to give the example of when you were in school and you were a kid and it was Friday afternoon and there were 5 more minutes until the bell was going to ring and let you out for the weekend. And those 5 minutes, I'm sure, seemed to take forever, right? And so it's that feeling of like, it really is our perception of time that creates our sense of, scarcity or abundance of time. And so if you can shift the way you think about time, that if you're more intentional with how you spend it, that you can create this feeling of more time. Um, and so I want to just pause and stop for a minute and say, what have there been times in your life when you felt like time was either moving faster or slower? Like, can you think of an example? And I'm wondering if you can think of one, maybe if you could share with the group, like how have you experienced time? What has that felt like for you? Has there been a situation where you felt like moved time to either faster or slower than it actually did? Can anybody think of maybe an example that they'd like to share?
I can share one, Amanda. It's kind of
Yeah.
cute. Yeah. So in the terms of, I always feel like time goes really fast when I'm trying to make a deadline. Like if I have especially at work. So if I have something that is, you know, like a report due or something that, and I get myself, I've worked better. I've worked on this, and actually, thank you from the last time you did this is something I've kind of worked on. But I noticed that I almost use that adrenaline of the deadline to give me the push to do whatever I need to do to get across that line. And but then it's the anxiety feeling, oh no, I've got to make it. Is it right? And then my perfectionism, I don't have enough time to double check everything. So since the last time we did this, I've really kind of just thought about that. And it's like the moment is always now, and that give myself the sense of really all I can do is one thing at a time, and like to spend and kind of catch myself when I'm doing that. So yeah, so sometimes I feel like it goes fast when I have a deadline and I'm not I'm not ready for it. Of course it goes fast when you're having fun too, but that's one that's on the negative side of it going fast when you want it to go slower. But yeah, you can really kind of intentionally catch yourself doing that and slow down and recognize that you can only really can only do what you can one thing at a time and do it well, and to do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing and also your experience with, how it's shifted a little bit since the last
Yeah.
time you went through this exercise. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. All right. Anybody else have anything they want to share before I move on to the next thing
Sure. I
here?
just want to share
Oh,
real
yeah.
quick. You know, following along or dovetailing, as they say, on what Rhonda was saying. In a former life, as I like to call it, I worked for a large corporation, and multitasking is something that I became very proud of, and I felt that it was a skill, and of course, I was rewarded for it. And now, at this point in my life, I realize that multitasking is not going to benefit where I need to be, and so I've really learned to slow it down into the now moment. You know, when I am working on or doing something, practicing whatever it is, it's, you know, I try to slow it down to say, I'm here now, right? The past is the past, the future is the future, but I'm here, I'm working on this, I'm going to get it done, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. And I find that often that helps. And the other thing I'm really practicing on when you talk about shifting perspectives is moving away from labeling as Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. It's today. So when I wake up, it's I'm here today, and this is today, and this is what I'm working on. So that's kind of how I work through it.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, absolutely. I love, what you just said about just, being in the now and only focusing on the now. Because you're right. You can't change the past, and you really have no control over the future. It really is like just moment by moment. So I love that. Thank you for sharing, Todd.
You're welcome.
All right. So the second question on the screen then is, what are ways that you can start to shift your mindset around time? And we've also already had some conversation on that around, how can you see things? How can you see it a little bit differently? How can you stay focused on the present so you're not so worried about the future or concerned about what happened in the past? And it really is around, like Rhonda shared in her example, where she's started to catch herself, right? When those thoughts come up, and being able to sort of remember that you do have sort of control over how you're feeling about the moment, and taking that time and staying in the moment, in the now, in the present, in order to move through whatever it is that you're working through. So I'm going to then shift to mindset shift number 2, which is around conformity, shoulds, and how that conflicts with our values and priorities. And it goes back to remembering our why in the beginning, right? As to why we want it. Why is it that we want this time for ourselves? And what are our values and priorities? And not worrying so much about, what other people think. Like the image says on the screen, oh, and I can't even see it because I've got pictures of you, but happiness is found when you stop comparing yourself to other people, right? It really is, living your true authentic selves, not worrying about what other people are thinking, and not necessarily trying to conform to other people's expectations of us, right? It's really taking a look at what are our values and priorities, what's important to us, what's authentic to us, and not being so concerned about what we think other people think of us. And if that is something that you are concerned with, maybe, do some questioning on that. Why do I think it's so important that other people think a certain way about me, right? How can I maybe get back to my authentic self? So just even thinking about those things, like what is it that I'm doing? What are those things that I may be spending my time on that aren't values and priorities for me, that maybe other people are expecting of me, that aren't aligned with my own values and priorities? And taking a look at, are those things that you still want to be doing or should be spending your time and energy on? All right, so I'm going to move on to the next slide here. So now we're going to get into a little bit more of the strategic tools around time management. And so there's 2 tools I'm going to be sharing with you today. The first one is the Eisenhower Matrix, which you can see on the screen. And the second one is time blocking. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about how to make that fit you as your, how you work. Because everybody's a little bit different. And I know a couple of people that mentioned the ADHD. So I want to make sure that, you use that tool best for you, because it's not the same for everyone. But first we'll talk about the Eisenhower Matrix. And that's what you've probably seen this before. It's that 4 quadrants, what's important and what's urgent and what's not important and what's not urgent. And really, when you take a look at all the things that you have on your plate, what are the things that I should be doing and what are things that I can get rid of? Because I feel like, as we talked about earlier, are we doing things that we think we should be doing or other people are expecting of us that aren't aligned with our values and priorities? So are there things that can be eliminated or reduced? And so it really is about just taking your list of things and putting it in the matrix. And if it is important and urgent, then go ahead and do it do that, put that on your list of things. If it's important but not urgent, finding the time to schedule that out, like just put a future date to it and get to it then, so it's not on your current plate where it could cause some overwhelm because you feel like you've just got this huge list of things to do. The third quadrant of things that are not important but urgent, think about, is it possible that somebody else can do those things for you? I always like to say kids are a great place to delegate things to, because it's not just about getting it off your plate, but a lot of the things that we can delegate to them are life skills that we should be teaching them so they can, become productive, like, independent adults. And so if you have kids, that's always a great place. Like, can you delegate to your children? And then that last quadrant is, not important and not urgent. And so those are the things, like, are those things that you can just get rid of? Are those the things that are the shoulds, the conformity things? That other people are expecting of you? Do they really need to be on your plate if they're not important or not urgent? And just to go back to quadrant 3 really quick, it's not just about delegating. There are other things that you can do in that box. Like the slide says, it could be automation. Could it be, maybe you can automate your household delivery of products, right? Like subscriptions, or outsourcing, not just delegating, but outsourcing to some other third party. So those are all sorts of things that you can do to help reduce the things that you have on your plate that take up your time that aren't necessary for you to do, so that you can free up the time for yourself to make the time for inner work, do the things that you are that you value and prioritize for yourself. And then the second strategic tool I want to go through is time blocking. And I know a lot of times people think time blocking, they're like, oh, I can't do that. Like, I can't concentrate for any one thing for an hour or 2 hours. I can't create these time blocks. And so the technique that I like to talk about is the Pomodoro technique. And you might have seen the Pomodoro clocks that have the timers already built in, but I don't like it to be that confining or strict. Like, the way that I teach the time blocking is like, make it fit for you. Like, your body, how long you can focus. And so play with it and test it out. And when you get the workbook afterwards that sort of has the exercise on the time tracking, it also has a page that has some prompts to help you identify how time blocking might work for you, and some place to sort of do that experimentation. And so the Pomodoro technique does say as you identify your list of tasks, your to-do list, is to set the timer for 25, like actually set a timer for 25 minutes, and eliminate as many distractions as you can. So if that's communicating with other people in your household to let them know that you have this dedicated time for yourself, that you're trying to get something done so they don't disturb you. And maybe turning off all the notifications on your phone. It might be closing all the other windows on your computer so that you can focus on that one thing. Maybe it's, having white noise on in the background or having music on. So whatever it is that helps you focus and eliminate distractions as much as possible, create that space for yourself. Find a place where you have that, space that is safe for you to dedicate time towards, and then set that timer. And start with 25 minutes, because that's what Pomodoro says. But and usually, most people can do 25. Some people can't. Sometimes 15 is plenty to focus on, and then you need to take a break. Some people can go longer, and some people can go 40 minutes. And so that's why I say experiment and play with this technique to see what works best for you. But start at 25, and then if you can't go that long, stop it wherever it's at, and then just try it out. But the idea is to take that time block, whatever that is, say start at 25, and then take a 5-minute break when that alarm goes off. Like, get up, stretch, maybe go for a quick walk, do something that gets you out of that space, so that not just your mind gets a break, but your body also gets some movement. And then go back and set the timer again for another 20, say 25 if you're starting out, to figure out what that time works best for you. And then repeat that 3 in a row, and then take a much longer break. So at least 30 minutes. Maybe it's a meal period. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's going to the gym, whatever that is, in order to give you that time away. And so the thought around this technique is then you're building a habit of taking that time and really figure out what that time is that works best for you. Like, what is that time frame that works best for your body, for your mind and focus? And once you identify that sweet spot, then this process will work really well. And I think what happens oftentimes is people stick to the rule because that's what it says, and it just doesn't work for them. That's why I really harp on, find out what works best for your body, and once you find that sweet spot, it'll work. This technique will work. Any questions on any of that before I move on to the next slide on these tools? Okay, I'm going to keep going. All right, so now I'm going to share with you some success tools. Like, what is it, like, what support might you need to help you keep going with the strategic tools and making sure that you're getting this time that you want to create for yourself for this inner work or whatever it is that you're trying to create time for, to create that success. So the 3 success tools I'm going to share today: happiness, gratitude, and celebration. So the first one is happiness. And I have the happiness equation up on the screen. You may or may not have seen this before, but really, what is happiness? It really is that happiness occurs when your perception of events, or happiness is greater when your perception of events in your life is greater than your expectations, right? And so sometimes we have really high expectations for our life and we're not meeting that. And so that creates unhappiness. And so can you reevaluate the expectations that you have for your life? Like, why do you feel like you need to have these grand expectations? Or even on a day-to-day basis, what expectations or what things do I want to accomplish this day? And if I at least get to meet some of those, can that create happiness? Because it really is an internal decision that you make for yourself, right? Because you can change any side of that equation and create happiness for yourself, or you can do the opposite and remove the happiness from yourself if you have that imbalance. And so it really is about balancing what you're seeing and what your expectations are in order to create the happiness that you want. What I might suggest is, reevaluate what your expectations are. Are you creating unrealistic expectations? Can you reimagine what your expectations might be to create more happiness in your life? All right, so the second one is gratitude. And gratitude is so important, right? And I think everybody already knows that. And I think there are so many like gratitude journals and gratitude practices that exist out there that people can do. And gratitude is one of those things where, right, it's about raising your vibration. Like when you have that feeling and sense of gratitude, just your vibration is just raised so high, and that just emanates and creates all sorts of goodness for you in your life. And the other thing is celebration. Just remembering to celebrate the little wins and moments in your life where you're getting things done that you often overlook. Like so many people achieve and don't stop to celebrate the achievements that they have made. And it could be because they're always so focused on I still haven't done this, or I still haven't done that, or I still haven't accomplished this. But really, when you have that celebration of even small wins, it creates that momentum to keep going forward. And the other thing I wanted to just talk about really quick is the difference between gratitude and celebration. Because oftentimes people think gratitude is the same thing as celebration. Like I'm grateful for something that has happened that's positive. But gratitude isn't always necessarily around the positive things. Like we can be grateful for things that are maybe what we perceive as negative, right? Because it's something that happened, but we learned a great lesson from it. And maybe if that bad thing hadn't happened, then we wouldn't have learned that lesson. So can we be grateful for those moments when maybe things didn't turn out the way we wanted to? But we learned something amazing from that. We gained a great lesson, or we shifted in a way that changed the trajectory of our lives. And so, even having gratitude for things that we might not perceive as positive, because there was something there, there's a reason why it happened. And I love some of the quotes that are on those little graphics there, right? Gratitude, it's not happiness that brings us gratitude, it's gratitude that brings us happiness. And the second one there around celebrations, the more we praise and celebrate, the more there is in life to celebrate. So I just leave those there for you to enjoy. And any comments or questions on any of those success tools that I shared before I move on to the next slide?
Yeah, man, I'll just say real
Yeah,
quick. I
yeah.
like the equation. As a research person, it's always good to be able to have equation. And that's true. Like the events minus what your expectations are, because there's been times I know that I've been disappointed or upset because I've set these expectations, and those expectations would be either kind of comparisons, or were other people that I thought where I should be. And those would create expectations. But once I really started to pull back those layers, they were completely unrealistic. Now they could be used as tools of motivation, but not necessarily expectation. So that was something I know I had to be able to learn of things, or things that people would do that would motivate and inspire me, letting those just serve as just that, but not as tools of expectation.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, thanks for sharing that. I like that what you said around tools for inspiration, but not necessarily setting those as expectations for yourself. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Oh, oops. Oh, what happened to my, okay. All right. So final wrap up, because we've got about 10 minutes left. I do want to leave some space for, if there are any questions about anything that we've talked about today, or even to just share maybe your biggest takeaway from today's session. Anybody have any thoughts that they'd like to share? More questions that you want to ask? Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead, Mark.
I do. I do have a question. Where could I find these worksheets at?
I think, Rhonda, are you going to place the link for that in the
Yes.
somewhere in the dashboard?
So Mark, it's going to be in the Mighty Networks community, the ConsciRise community. We're going to post it in there afterwards. I have them
Okay.
up. I was trying to see if I could put a link in here from Dr. Johnson. I'll get them in the community and we can post a link. I can email you out too, so you'll have it directly too.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Mark.
I'll
We'll get
email
over
everybody
some specific directions. That way you'll be able to access it.
Okay, I appreciate that, Doc.
Yeah, and actually, maybe I can share what it looks like. So let me just stop sharing this so I can find that, and I'll just so I can show you really quickly what it looks like. Because it's sort of this post session worksheet. It has some pages on that time tracking, like I mentioned, and it's got some journal prompts for each day as you go through that process. And then, like I mentioned, that Pomodoro, that experimentation around how time blocking is working for you. So let me just find that workbook.
I mean, a lot of them questions that you had up there like really make you think. They're questions. They're questions you think to yourself every day, but you don't bring them into like reality because nobody's asking you. You talk to yourself every day, all day, like this, and this. But now that it's in front of you, you be like, I'm sitting here like, man.
Yeah.
Amanda,
Yeah.
I have it up if you want me
Oh,
to.
do you? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let
Go
me
ahead and share. I was
share
looking for
it.
it, but yeah, if you have it, go ahead and share.
Well, I can see my share button here. Okay, there we go. Everyone seeing it here, the journal prompt? So the goal is to track your first day. Is that right? How you're spending your time?
It's so it's actually each day, there's 7 days, but there's a journal prompt after each day. So you'll see there's a space to enter it's your waking hours, right? So like hour 1, like I woke up at 6, and 6 to 7, it could be like I just got ready and showered, right? And so just gives you an idea of how you're spending each waking hour of each day. And then there's a journal prompt for each day to sort of, have you sort of think about how your day went. So if you scroll down, Rhonda, so there's one for each day it's a 7-day tracking. So it's space for each day, but there's a journal prompt for each day. So just to do some reflection each day on, how you think your day went. And so if you scroll down past the 7 days, Rhonda, there is, there's one for each day. And then, so there's the journal prompts for that time blocking experimentation. So there's journal prompts for that as you go through that. So so that's the workbook for, or the work pages for after today.
Yeah, so our challenge for everyone today is to do this, track your time for the next 7 days and see how it aligns.
I'm definitely about to do that.
So we'll have it in the community, and then we'll also send you an email with it attached.
I really appreciate y'all, and I really appreciate y'all, inviting me to y'all community. I look forward to it.
Yeah, so thankfully you're here.
Thanks
Yeah.
for being here. Yeah, and then I guess just if there aren't any other takeaways, just a reminder for next week's session is the power of awareness, understanding the nature of thought, and begin observing the mind without judgment. So I just wanted to put that out there for next week's.
Okay, so it's same time Sunday, next Sunday?
It is, yes.
Okay, I'll
And
be here.
good. And well, I want to see, does anyone have any more before we move
Yeah.
on?
Right. Any other questions or comments or takeaways?
Well, Amanda, one thing, when life was like really challenging for me and I was like, what is going on? There was a quote that really saved me. Like, it's that if you're worrying about the future, you're going to cause anxiety for yourself. If you're dwelling on the past, then you're going to have depression symptoms. And if you stay in the present moment, you're giving yourself a present. You're staying
Yeah.
focused and you're not able to deviate and cause such an uproar in your life and all that. And that was a tool that saved me so many times.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, so like,
I do love that quote as well. I've
Yeah.
heard it in many different variations of
yes,
that from a few different places. I can't remember. I don't know if it's Lao Tzu that originally
yeah.
quoted that, but it was also in Kung Fu Panda.
That's great.
But yeah, it really, yeah, because yeah, you can get lost in your thoughts and so like
Yeah,
gotta reel it
definitely.
back in.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially
I think,
about thinking about past. I
Mhm.
think
yeah,
past for me has been a struggle because I always think about, the past. Like, what could I have done differently? You know what I mean? And I shouldn't bring that into my today, but I do all the time.
Well,
yeah.
I went to a trip in Bali and we had a yoga studio and all that. And one of the leader of the yoga every day, this is one takeaway that I loved. She said, "Stop shoulding all over yourself." So they
Like that
made
one.
t-shirts and everything.
Yeah.
So it's like shoulda, woulda, coulda, but you know what?
Yeah.
Focus on the here and now, and you did the best you could at that time. So don't beat yourself up over it. So
Yeah, definitely. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Hey, I
add
have
in
to
real.
add to that because as I was going through the time and looking at the things that Amanda remind about response, like, are you doing it because other people expect you to do it?
Mhm.
And about perspective, right? So
Yeah.
I'm spending a lot of time caregiving for my parents, which is not something I choose to do. I usually try before I had to be caregiver. I was trying to avoid as much time as I had to not to be with my parents. But when I changed my perspective on it, that it's a core value of mine to care for people, and then I see it as a gift to be able to do that. So it's kind of like, even though it's no longer about the shoulds or I have to, it's like I have this opportunity now in my life to finish this well, something that I committed, however you look at that. I believe I probably chose my parents before I got here. So yeah. So that's
Yeah, that's a great example. That's a great example of how just shifting your perspective on it, right, can totally shift your energy around it, around doing that task. Yeah.
Two things I wanted to share real quick. Just one, talking about when the comment that was made about how we bring our past forward, and I think that's one of the reasons this community has come together and is growing, is because all of us have that. We all have a set of baggage that we carry with us, and that's one of the things I use in my practices. With anybody I'm working with, is we've got baggage, and we're going to work through it. And the other thing that I wanted to share was, Amanda, when you were talking about the tools, unconditional love came into view for me, and I saw something today. Where it said unconditional love vibrates at a frequency where even disease and illness has a hard time existing. And so I'm, going to dig into that more and more and more because, I believe in the unconditional love, but learning how to incorporate it into this time that you spoke of today, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Yeah. And, unconditional love is like, it's everything, right? It's that if you can just hold that energy, just like amazing. It's so powerful, just so
Yeah,
powerful.
it is. It is. And let me piggyback off of that because I had a conversation with my sister and it basically was about unconditional love because I told her, like, I put my energy from my family. Like, I got a core group of, family, like I pull that energy from, and it just makes me want to thrive. It makes you, just enjoy life. Definitely that unconditional love. I like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How we got here.
Yeah.
We came here. We came here with a whole bag of it, and then somehow we lost it.
Definitely.
And one of the things, I was thinking about, as we were on, especially Amanda, when you had asked that question about like time feeling as though it's maybe going faster, and then at times feeling like it's going slower. And a lot of it is, the people and the energy that you're around. And it's been making me think, especially when I've Todd's comment about like the vibration of unconditional love vibrating at a rate where certain things can't even exist. And that vibration, how that vibration impacts time, or either our perception of time, or either time space, like those more metaphysical aspects. Because there's certain times I think when we're with certain people, where the energy is just, the vibes is just so great. Time does seem like it's really just moving. But I wonder, like, what is happening in the physics of that environment that not only is internally, but because of the energy, that the love that we all have in that environment, what's happening to the physics that's actually impacting our perception of time?
Yeah.
That's a really great question. I mean, I kind of feel like in some instances, if you have such great high vibrating people together, it's almost like time stands still. You're outside of time,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was going to say. Yeah, the time dissolves, and when you come
Yeah.
back, you think it went faster, but the time just really dissolved at that moment when you were
Yeah.
engaged. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we are here at our time, and I thank everyone for everything that everyone shared. I do want to remind people that Amanda is one of our vetted practitioners here on ConsciRise. You can work with her individually if you want to do a little bit more work on connecting your time with your values and priorities and helping you manage your time. And I put it in the chat here. You can find her on the her offerings on the ConsciRise practitioner page that's linked here. And I've also in the chat added her direct autumnhealing.com, which is her website, and she has a wonderful podcast too. So I encourage you, if you listen to podcasts, to go through some of her podcasts and listen to them. She has great guests on, and great learning experiences in that podcast too. So thank you everyone for being here today.
Well, and Rhonda, real quick, I want to just, because we got some people joining us from on live, so I want to just thank Ashley for joining us, Mom for joining us, and Whiterica for joining us. It's good seeing y'all. I haven't seen y'all in a minute, but come and get some of these high vibrations that we're serving over at ConsciRise. So we're gonna be back for all of y'all these next upcoming Sundays. So good seeing everybody online. Thank you all for joining us. And I just want to just put that in real quick to thank our online folks for joining us, Rhonda. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
Nope, thank you for doing that. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
All right, bless.